hug. I needed that.
Thanks.
Oh, okay. The hot seat.
Can we raise your hands?
Sure, yeah.
Hi. What I really loved about your presentation was how personal it was.
Yeah. Thank you.
And how much you opened your heart and how much you were real and present with us. The part where I really got lost was I wasn't really tracking with you in terms of the value that you were offering. That there was no substance or content or value that would keep me engaged to find out more of what it could do for me in a concrete kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the main piece that I found missing.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have any suggestions on how I could have given that?
Well, I actually recommend, there are templates that, we could talk privately about it, but there are some templates you could use that break down your talk and make sure that you cover certain, segments.
Mm-hmm.
And you have segments that make sure that you cover that. And we could talk about that if you like.
I'd like to speak to that and say, I think you hit on so many great points. You probably could have 4 talks in some of the things you said, and I think you are probably really knowledgeable about some of the topics you hit on, like mindfulness and meditation, fear, and flow. I love how passionate you got about, I could see like the ferocity when you're talking about like this, all of these signs that said this is not the place, and it's like to be able to kind of have the light on and identify those cues. I'm so ignorant when it comes to that sometimes, and that is to me, that speaks really clearly to me. Like I really think you could probably take your story, and it could be really fluid. You could have 4 different talks about what you're saying, because there's a lot there.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. So
Thank you.
yeah, sure.
And for your brand, it might not be a bad idea to have 4 talks that you can pull from and talk
Yeah,
about each
I have
of these
3.
pieces. Awesome.
I have 3, but they're different.
Yeah. I loved how authentically emotional you were. Like every step of the way, you were so present, and it felt like the way that you drew the picture. Each moment when you're laying on the floor, I was there with you. When he was eating olives, I was there with you. When you were sitting in, like with all the bags outside the bus stop, I was there with you. Like I could picture each part of it, and I loved that.
Thank you.
That's what kept me most engaged, just how present you were as you were telling that story. I also love just little things that you threw in with your own personality. Like fear is a B word. Hysterical. Like it was just, it was great, because even then it was like, there are so many ways to execute that, and you're just like, wait, not that B word, here's a brick wall. And it was just like, and you stopped and you felt it. And it was really, I like the presence that you bring to what you're saying. I also really like the lessons that you had in there, and you called out 3 in particular. You called out the, sorry, I was like, wrote them all down. To tell everyone that you're gonna do it, and then also the being mindful of the meditation piece, and then making the process smaller. I think that where the connection was lost was that those were buried inside of the story.
Okay.
And so there's an opportunity to do a couple things. For one, you could come back at the end and revisit each of your main points, each of your main lessons, and remind us that this is what we were talking about. Yeah. Here's how it played out in my life. How is it playing out in yours?
Okay, thank you.
Or, there are a couple different ways to do that. Like even the one about like telling everyone, because that was such in the middle, like I wasn't sure, was that a lesson we're left with, or is that something that she's just kind of saying?
Right.
So there's a couple ways that you could do that. For one, like I wrote this down, and forgive me, it may not be your style, but I was like yeah, tell everybody. Like you want to talk about accountability? Try telling your friends and family that you're moving to Italy. Every conversation I had started with, so when are you moving? Right? Just like, because it was like, you're so animated, and those are opportunities, especially for your lessons, that animation can really come out. And then at the beginning, I think that you did a really good job of saying, I want to inspire you. My goal here is to inspire you. I'm going to tell you my 2 stories of how that happens. So there may be a way that you can talk about, I'm here to inspire you, and what I've learned through my time, the things I'm going to talk about, is that it starts with you. It starts with finding that inner voice, and that's kind of the thing that you're going to weave through the whole thing. And when you go into, I'm going to tell my 2 stories, what stuck out for me was that you weren't talking about taking a leap, you're talking about what happens when the leap doesn't go the way you planned.
Yeah.
Right? And so maybe even saying, well, what happens when you take that leap and you fall flat? Like, and no one's there to catch you.
Yeah.
I wanted to share my journey and talk about what happens before, during, and after the leap. And kind of see where that goes. And that can open people up to, this sounds like it's going to be a motivational talk, but it also sounds like there's going to be some really hard stuff that she goes through in this experience. I'm hoping that it ends positively.
Yeah.
Hard to say at this point, you know what I mean? And that way they get kind of a flow of where you might go with this.
Right.
And then at the end, you can end with reminding them of the 3 points and then talking about, like, bringing it back to the audience. What
Yeah.
about you? How do you find that voice
Right.
within yourself?
Yeah, thank you.
What he said.
Those were my thoughts. I made sure.
I think you did a phenomenal job. Like, the passion that you brought to it, you felt through the whole library for sure. Like, it was great. This is what happens when I speak. The couple things.
Shedding light on the situation.
What's that?
No, I said shedding light on the situation.
In the beginning, when you first started out, you were looking at the floor a lot,
Yeah.
but you totally pulled out of that.
Okay.
And-
Thank you.
Which is great. I'm saying a lot. You shouldn't do that, but you did a great job with not saying
Did I? Okay,
Yeah,
good.
I didn't hear it.
Twice.
I didn't hear an or an and.
You didn't use a lot of filler words too.
You know, what Jerome was saying, I did get a little lost, a little bit. An idea which is very similar to what Jerome was saying. It's like, hey, I have 2 stories for you. Like, ask questions of the audience. Like, you engaged us incredibly well, and you were asking questions, and you made me like I emotionally, like I could feel everything, I could visualize everything you were talking about, but then I got lost in the story
Yeah.
with the lessons. So maybe
Okay.
tell a story and then be like, here's a lesson I learned from that. And then story number 2.
Yeah, call that out.
Yeah, like call out those main points, and then when you're tying it all up into a nice clean bow at the end, it's like, and this is the things you need to take away from this talk.
Okay.
Or this is what I'm trying to shed light on, and this is, and then you want to leave it with a question, with them wanting more from you.
Yeah, thank you.
That's going to be the main thing. So, but I think you did a great job.
Thank you.
I liked how authentic you were. I could really feel that, and I think people would want to connect with that, and you do a very good job of sharing that with everyone.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
I'll echo what everyone else said. Very authentic. And really same things. I was maybe looking for just a summary at the end. I caught the lessons along the way, but you just want to really drive that home at the end, because that's, I think, what people remember. That's where they want to feel their takeaways or have their takeaways. You didn't use a lot of filler words, but you did use "and" a little bit, so I would probably
Okay.
watch that.
Thank you.
One additional thought that I want to throw out is that I don't know if your intention in your talk is to have some kind of a call to action or some kind of motivation for your audience to do something, but in that event that you do want to do that, that is important to you, I would recommend that you add something at the end, that you give people something to do, that you give them, invite them into something, that you make an offer to them of something that allows them to act so that they can actually experience some of the value, some of the wisdom and value that you possess.
Like
in
within
some
my
way.
business?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
could be, right, it could be any
Yeah.
number of different ways that you might do that, but would be, if that's your interest, if you want to speak, not just to inform and to inspire, but also to motivate action.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah,
like,
I actually have that planned
Okay,
in longer speeches
okay.
and for different audiences.
okay, okay.
For me, it doesn't feel natural to do it at the end. It feels more natural to do it like in the beginning or in the middle.
Okay,
But
good.
throwing out what I do to help people through that process and how I can help
An
them.
invitation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
well, yeah,
That's
because
good.
you did talk about what you do at the beginning.
I did just briefly, and Actually, I do have a hard time with that. I should have practiced that today.
Yeah, I mean, that's an opportunity for us to hear you, right?
Yeah.
And get a feel for what else you do, because you're great with the emotion. And so it could be a call to action that says, you know, spend 30 seconds right now thinking about that thing that you are thinking about taking a leap on.
Yeah.
You know, how do you,
And what's one step?
who can you tell? Like, who's the first person that you can tell about this?
Yeah.
Or what's
Great idea.
what's your heart saying? You know, just get them that way. Or for the business part, I lead a workshop where we can sit down and really do this.
Yeah.
If you want to do that with me, then, you know, fill out this, or, you know, let me know, and like come meet me at the end of this and let's talk about it. Let's get it together.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I think you shouldn't discount wanting to connect with people after the fact. Like you said, you have a problem with saying it at the end. I think that's a perfect spot for you to do that, because you just made a connection with me, and at the end I'm like, you know what, I want to know more. Because if that was presented on the front end or the middle of it, I might get a little bit lost.
Okay.
But I don't have personally a problem with you sharing with me, hey, you know, if you're open to hearing more or whatever, connect with me. Here's how you can connect with me.
Okay.
So I
thanks.
wouldn't be afraid
Appreciate
to
it.
tag that on the end of your
Yeah.
presentation.
Okay.
For, I don't know if you do in your talks, but maybe have like an actual presentation with pictures.
Yeah, I have this great picture when I was in Italy. I went cliff jumping, and
Cool.
and it's actually a picture of me just above the water, right when I'm going in. It was like 30 feet high cliff, and that's the picture actually on my webpage of this topic that I speak on, and that's a picture I want to show in the beginning or during, and say, you know, this is a very literal description of a leap of faith, but all the elements are there, right? You know, the fear, the leap, unknown waters, what's it gonna feel like? Then when you get there, you know, choking on water, you can't breathe, swim to, you know, so all the elements are there.
Right, but you can also do that with your checkerboard floor. You can do it with each different thing. You can tie it all together.
I should have a picture of that
And it'd be
checkerboard.
really interactive with people as well, so.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
song and dance.
Yeah.
I dance, so yeah, I would love that.
Do you have any I think self-reflection is really important. How do you think it went?
I'm actually really proud that I went through the whole speech the way I wanted to, for the most part. There were things I forgot. There were things I wanted to do at the end that I didn't do. The wrap up, I wanted it to be more about how, you know, you, right? And
Did you
You
feel
know,
rushed? Like, did you feel like you had?
I was kind of rushing myself.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah.
It didn't feel like
I didn't know how long I had, and I had planned like 15 minutes.
You were just about at that time frame.
Okay,
actually.
yeah, because I had practiced a few times, and it was. So this speech is normally 45 minutes, and I really get into it. I really appreciate you guys talking about the call to actions, because throughout I do want to give those tools, and I can see what happened, that it got mixed because it was just in the story, and I need to feature those more, and connect it with you, the audience, because when you're sitting there, that's what you want to know. How does this affect me, right? So I was hoping to connect, and it sounds like I did that. Thank you very much for your feedback. And then the other stuff I think I can work on, you know, so
Were you
I'm
nervous
proud.
at all?
I was totally nervous in the beginning, and my voice was cracking.
You know, I have to say though, personally, I think, and for not having seen you, I think it went really smoothly. There weren't any, there may have been like a few seconds of lingering where you're trying to find your flow, like, but it wasn't to the point, it wasn't awkward, it wasn't uncomfortable for me. So I'm just trying to hear, like, emotionally, like, how did it, or even physically, how did it feel for
Yeah.
you? And, you know, wondering, the presentation that you're giving, does it correlate to what's happening inside? Because you're doing a great job at presenting and projecting out.
Thank you.
And if you were nervous, I didn't pick up on it very much,
Thank
you know, and so I think.
Well, I think it helped to go first, because if I sit there and I think about it too long, I get really nervous. I